show Carole Moore. And it's Friday with Carole, and Carole's been talking to us and educating us about guns, which is a very important topic in today's world.
The aspect of the Second Amendment, and a lot of people know the First Amendment. That's your right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion. But your Second Amendment is your right to bear arms. And it was so funny because when that Second Amendment was written, you have to remember what was going on in the country. Okay? So your right to bear arms was not your right to go hunting, it was the right to protect yourself.
Right.
And we see in history what happens if you don't have a Second Amendment in your Constitution. Many countries of the world have a wonderful Constitution, and a new leader comes in and gets voted in, and they throw that Constitution out and write another one. Well, we've been going for over 200 years here in America because of that Second Amendment. And that Second Amendment protects all the other amendments. All over the world, people do not have a Second Amendment in their Constitution giving them the right to bear arms to protect themselves from terrorists or from whatever the negative aspect is.
Right.
But we do, and that's what has kept us safe. Now, look at history. History repeats itself. Know your history or you're doomed to repeat it. That's a slogan that I was taught growing up in school. Okay? Now, the very first thing, when Hitler first came, he started a boys' club. Their uniforms, like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, was innocently enough the brown shirts. Okay? Well, this boys' club of brown shirts became so powerful, okay, that the good Germans looked the other way. Oh, it's only Hitler the paper hanger, because Hitler was a paper hanger, and it's his boys' club. And the good Germans looked the other way. Well, the next time the good Germans looked, Hitler was so powerful that the very first thing Hitler did in his regime was to register firearms. Remember, I said history repeats itself. All right, we here in America are going through registering our firearms. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who registers their firearms? Only law-abiding citizens who aren't going to use the firearm for a negative crime anyway.
Absolutely.
Do you think the guys on the streets who buy them illegally are going to register them? Of course not. Okay. So Hitler gets all the firearms registered. What's the next thing Hitler does? He confiscates all firearms because now he knows where they are. Okay? We're doing the same thing here in America. Okay? So history does repeat itself. Now, look at Europe. When Hitler was so powerful, okay, that he was rolling over Poland, he was rolling over every country all over Europe, right?
Right.
Only one country in Europe that he didn't roll over. Do you know what it was? Switzerland. And everybody says, oh, that's because they all have those Swiss bank accounts there in Switzerland. Not. Under Swiss law, the head of every household is required by law, to own and practice every month with a machine gun. Now, Hitler's no idiot. He sees all these other countries around Switzerland who have no right to bear arms. So what does Hitler do? He totally goes around Switzerland because he knows there are armed citizens there who know how to use a machine gun. And so when we say history repeats itself, it does. So we here in America have to be very, very vigilant about owning a firearm. You don't have to own one if you're not comfortable with it, okay?
Right.
But just the fact that maybe you do is going to deter a lot of problems. Now, one of the during the Japanese World War II, in the Japanese area, they said, oh, well, we bombed Pearl Harbor, now we can go and take over the whole United States. And one of their top leaders says, but they own firearms. There's going to be a firearm behind every wall, behind every gun. And that's why the Japanese never invaded America, because of that, knowing that we had the firearms. And there's more firearms owned in America than are in all the armies of the world. And that is a big statement, but it came out recently that that's how many we have.
Wow.
And there are tons and tons of them that are not registered
A lot.
because of that law that first Hitler registered them, and then he confiscated them. Well, if you didn't register your gun, then the firearms are not known and they can't confiscate them.
Very interesting, very interesting. So now automatic weapons.
Okay?
Absolutely not.
You must understand, number one, Al Capone and the boys in the 20s and 30s used machine guns all the time. They have been outlawed since that time. So whenever you hear a newscast reporter, and I can hear my husband cringing, who says, oh, they had a machine gun. Okay, they didn't have a machine gun. The only way you're allowed to own a machine gun in this country is very highly regulated, and the permitting is like thousands of dollars just for the permit. You have to updo it every year. So they don't have a machine gun. Okay, they may have what's called a semi-automatic. Okay.
Semi-automatic.
So that's a possibility. All right, but then of course you have automatics as well as the semi-automatics. So, and they do fire more than one, 7 to 14 rounds, okay. But in Israel, and I never forget this, I saw it on the internet, a young school teacher, and my daughters are school teachers, and we're third generation teachers, and they actually take the kids on a field trip in Israel, and every teacher, man and woman, has a machine gun slung on her shoulder. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they've been in a terroristic area for so many decades and decades that they train all women and men after high school. They go into the military for 2 years to learn how to do this.
Wow.
So if some creep comes out and tries to injure your school class as you're taking them on a field trip, okay, you're there to protect it. So, and as far as the states, every state is different. You have to go into the internet and look up federal firearms. And this is another gray area which is really kind of tricky. The federal firearms law is supposed to make everything in every state be the same. But then underneath of the federal firearms, you have the state laws. Every state is different. So I teach here in New Jersey. I teach women's self-defense, rifle, pistol, shotgun. I'm a range safety officer. And I teach here, and yet I am not allowed to carry a firearm.
You teach, but you
I
don't.
teach, but I'm not allowed to carry it in New Jersey. But I can own a Florida permit, and I can carry in 47 states, but not New Jersey where I live.
We're tough on guns, I gotta say that.
But has it helped? Has it changed any of the statistics? It has not. And go back to the first statistic we talked about. More people die in drowning
Right.
than die from firearms. More people die in auto accidents. More malpractice suits kill people. We don't ban doctors. We don't ban automobiles. We don't ban swimming pools.
No, but we should do something with our automobiles.
Yes, we should do some of our automobiles. So.
That's up to the insurance
Yeah.
industry, but anyway. Well, Carole, thank you so much for coming on morning or Friday morning with Carole. As usual, it's always a pleasure and educational. This is going to wrap up morning coffee for this morning. So we'll check you out next week as we start another new week of morning coffee. And check out Carole's show.
Yes, if you
Camp with Ms. Whitebriar.
and if you wish to have firearms training by licensed, certified instructors, Delran Junior Marksman, Delran, New Jersey. It's on the website. You can just call them up. I think it's $50 for the course, and that pays for your books. And they do it every spring, so now's the time.
Okay, awesome. We'll see you next week.